Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Cultural Leg 2313 and it says, I'm on vacation with my boyfriend of almost 6 years and I've decided I have to break up with him. I love him so much. I live with him, but this trip was the straw that broke the camel's back, and when we get back home, I'm going to end it. I've always known he's at a temper, but him throwing little tantrums 3 times during this trip, it's only been 5 days. I'm pretty even-tempered and slow to anger, but his anger is triggered by, in my eyes, seemingly everything. And when he's mad at something, he gives me the silent treatment. No communication, no telling me what's wrong, even if I ask kindly and try to attend to his needs. And he'll often just walk away from me, leaving me perplexed if I've done something to anger him. 95% of the time I haven't done anything, but he'll get angry at me anyway and find some way to pin it on me for not being helpful. But it's a lose-lose. When I try to help and he ignores me and is cold to me. When I ask him how he wants me to help, he has no response and gets annoyed. After getting the silent treatment for a while, I usually stop trying to help. This is when I become the bad guy for not helping him. This behavior is nothing new. He's always done this, but this trip has made me come to the realization that I can't depend on him to be there for me. I feel literally sick to my stomach with the anxiety of it all. Even when I'm weak with hunger, I can barely stomach a bite of food. I feel like I want to throw up constantly. This June would have been 6 years for us. We've built so much together. His family is like my family. His friends are my friends, but I don't think I could ever marry or raise a child with this person who abandons me on a whim and blames me for all the misfortunes in his life. When he's in a good mood, we're on cloud 9. I'm terrified of losing him. I'm terrified of what my life will become, but I'm having a hard time seeing a future with him. So many empty promises of, I'll do better next time and I won't give you the silent treatment anymore. And I believed them every time until now. Now I know. If nothing has changed in nearly 6 years, nothing will change in the next 6, or the next. His lack of empathy and victim mentality and unpredictable anger has finally got to me. Just 2 more days on this trip. I have to try and act normal, have a good time. I want to enjoy his company while he's in a good mood. I don't want to ruin this trip for him or others we are traveling with. But once we're back home, I don't think I can do it anymore. Edit. Thanks for your responses. I appreciate all the support. I want to clarify a few things. I don't think he is a narcissist, and I don't think he's a bad guy. He genuinely loves me and cares about me, but he's not a great communicator and isn't super emotionally mature. A lot of people are commenting that he's an emotional manipulator. I can almost say for certain he doesn't lash out and love bomb in order to take advantage of me. He just simply doesn't know how to react to his emotions in a healthy way. I can attribute a lot of this to how he was raised. Knowing his family and his parents. It may sound pretty black and white, like he's a horrible person in the post, as often happens on Reddit. It is much more grey than that. I'm not perfect and he's not evil. It is also very possible he has ADHD, but he hasn't gotten diagnosed for it. Thank you all who are concerned for me. I can promise I am safe. Thank you all for the support. Commenter says to the OP, be prepared for a meltdown when you do break up with him. 6 years and no proposal. Be sure to clearly explain everything when you do break up, with examples. Does he suffer from any past trauma? But if the relationship doesn't work, then it doesn't work. OP replies saying it's gonna be tough. I'm to blame for the no proposal. I made it clear I wasn't ready for that step. I'm 24. I always use my age as an excuse, but subconsciously think I just wasn't ready to commit to the rest of my life to him while still dealing with his emotional immaturity. I thought that with time it would get better. He doesn't suffer from any severe past trauma, but he 100% gets his anger from his mum. He lashes out at everyone around him the same way his mum used to. Another commenter says sounds like he also wants to break up and is also afraid to talk about it. He may want to get a jump start and leave early to start packing. OP says, the thing that breaks my heart is that I don't think he does. After each one of his tantrums, he's extremely genuine and apologetic and promises he'll do better next time. He tells me how much he loves me and how he doesn't want to lose me. I think he knows how well I treat him and how much shit I tolerate from him. Not many people would take that shit and forgive after. I was always pretty quick to forgive, as long as I got a genuine apology. But this time I'm not sure I can completely forgive, because I wouldn't trust him to take care of me and our future family if things got hard. Commenter says he needs to work on himself. Opie says, I think he took for granted that I would always be there and would tolerate this forever. I already have for so long. I think our breakup will be a big eye-opener for him. That would really motivate him to actually work on himself, not just say it. Commenter says you're making the right decision. People really don't change this fundamentally. Even if he gets therapy, the tendency will always be there, I'm afraid. I'm sorry for your loss, but I think you'll find a better life outside of this emotional chaos. Opie says, you're right, and it took me far too long to see it. I always believed his promises of doing better next time. Well, things might have gotten a teensy bit better since we first started dating. I now see that as an innate part of him and the way he was raised, and I was being too optimistic for too long. Then Opie gave an example of one of his tantrums and says, once was because he was hangry/tired after a flight. Once was because he didn't sleep that well. And once was because we, the group, went to get a massage that he didn't want to participate in, and then got it in his head about being abandoned. I offered to not get the massage and to accompany him, but he declined. So a couple of days after that, Opie comes in with an update and says, I did it. I told him that he pushed me one time too far and that I cannot do it anymore. It was heartbreaking. A lot of tears were shed. He was shocked but very apologetic, and he begged me for one more chance. He promised change. But I told him that I don't want to spend the rest of my life with the man he is today. I said that if he enacted change, maybe down the line we could make it work. But as of right now, I can't trust his promises, and I have to take care of myself and my own heart and take some space. I don't want to be given the silent treatment, and I don't want to walk on eggshells anymore. While he was devastated and said he would do anything to keep me, he was also very understanding and kind. He wants me to take care of myself too, and he will respect my decision and work on himself. He's looking into therapy, counseling, or anger management options. He said he'll work on communication and emotional regulation so he can treat his friends and family better, and hopefully win me back someday. I'm currently staying with my parents while he takes the time to gather his things and move out. I'm heartbroken and scared, but I know I made the right decision for me. Some people were commenting that we just needed to communicate and talk through this. I've tried. I'm super big on addressing problems and conflicts and talking them out, but he didn't grow up that way. After every single conflict in the past, I always sat down with him and told him exactly how I was feeling and why. I would ask him to explain his feelings and his side as well. Like I said, he didn't grow up being the best communicator. Trying to talk through the problems to no avail is one of the reasons I had been pushed so far away. Some commenters also mentioned an ultimatum. I heavily considered this. But I'm also so conditioned to cater to him and walk on eggshells around him that I decided the best way to take care of myself is to be away from him. Alone, I didn't have to think about anyone else's needs but my own. And my dog. For the first time in a while, I'm going to do what I want, go where I want, eat what I want, and be as spontaneous, or not, as I want. Nobody to watch me, nobody else's plans to consider. Now I know sharing those moments is part of the beauty of relationships and marriage, but I think rather than being free to make my decisions and share them, I'd been controlled to first make sure he wouldn't get mad at the decision before committing to it. I love saying yes to plans, but with him, I became non-committal to plans with family and friends, just in case. It's time for me to take back my life and simply do what I want to do. Thank you, Reddit strangers, to all the people who supported my decision and gave me the strength to follow through. It was so hard, but I remembered all of your encouragement and support and reassurance. Thank you to all the people who are on my boyfriend's side of things and gave your perspectives. You're all so kind and helped me understand his point of view. It is hard, but there is hope for him to grow and truly change for the better. If not for us, then for his own happiness and peace. The one thing after all that had me a bit iffy about it, if you like, if that's a good word for it, I can't quite think of the right word, but was when he was promising to do all these things, counseling, anger management, therapy, which are good options. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's a bad option if he does it. And if when he does it, he sticks to it. Because at the moment, it finished that sentence with, hopefully he'll win me back one day. So in my head right now, I'm just thinking that that's the reason he's doing it. Not necessarily for himself, but in the hope that he can win OP back. Which I found like a tad little bit concerning, just because if OP's not thinking about getting back with him one day, it just could cause some major issues in my opinion. Just stuff that we've seen in past stories, which I know is very Reddit-y of me, but hey. But someone did say to OP, he will go to therapy to get you back, and when you're back, he'll quit therapy and go back to being the same grumpy, miserable guy as always. It will hurt more than the second time around, because fool me twice. OP says I would need to see some real drastic changes in mentality and maturity that can't be faked before I would go back. Changes in things we never talked about directly, but shows in tiny actions and words. I'm not going to be optimistic and say I expect it to happen. Another commenter says, I'm so glad you're doing this for yourself. Take back your life and enjoy every moment of it. Being single is just as amazing as being with someone. Another commenter says, you're very strong and I'm proud of you. I'm glad the breakup wasn't violent or aggressive. The healing time has come now. Hope your parents and dog give you lots of love and comfort. What about you guys? Do you think change is possible with this guy or not? I think there's always the possibility, right? But them getting back together? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Flower Bandis, who says, my ex turned up last night drunk. Tomorrow is his wedding day. Should I tell his soon-to-be wife? I was with my ex for 2 years. It was not the best relationship and we broke up because I moved for uni and just didn't want to be with him anymore. It's been almost 5 years since we broke up and I'm engaged to be married with my fiance who is absolutely my soulmate. Yesterday evening around 10 o'clock, he rang our doorbell drunk. His bachelor party was in the city I live in and he came to see me. When my fiance opened the door, my ex just started sobbing, saying he couldn't believe my fiance was real or some BS like that. We took him into the apartment because he didn't look dangerous and he just vocally vomited before he actually vomited in our bath. What I could gather is that he was still very hurt because of our breakup. That he thinks we could have made it work and he regrets treating me badly. He then threw up again and called an Uber to his hotel. It was very surreal. He was fine. We fed him waffles, good choice, and Tiffy, I'm assuming it's coffee, to sober up, and told him to write us when he was in his hotel to make sure he didn't die or something. I was left with a weird feeling, almost dirty. I'm thinking of contacting his soon-to-be wife, or should I call him to encourage him to tell that to his fiancée? Or should I not do anything and let this just be an anecdote for my future? Commenter says, put yourself in his wife's shoes. Would you want to sign your life away to this person? Opie says, I guess I would want to know. But I also would prefer my partner to tell me that. Adept Award says, but would he tell her? By telling her yourself, you risk not being believed or coming across as petty, but at least you know someone tried to warn her. Opie says, thanks for the feedback. It seems like Reddit is as split on this as I am. Just because this kept coming up. My main goal with telling her is not for them to break up. I don't want that, and that's not why I would want to tell her. The reason for me telling her is solely that I would want to know if I was her. Nothing else. It's also not me bragging about him not being over me. That's not something I care about and wonder how some of you twisted it into that. Also, a tiny update. I decided that contacting the bride was the wrong move because we're not friends. However, I sent his sister, an old friend of mine, a message basically saying to talk to her brother because he appeared at my door drunk and distressed and to make sure he was okay. She thanked me for the message and apologized profusely because my ex has been apparently acting a fool for a few weeks now leading up to his wedding. She asked me if I was okay and if her brother had gone back to the hotel room because they couldn't find him. I told her that he had Ubered home and had written us that he had arrived in his room at around 11:30 p.m. She thanked me again and I haven't heard from her since. Another update. His sister called me again to ask me if he had come by or said anything about his whereabouts. Apparently he didn't show for the wedding and no one knows where he is. So me telling the fiancé is now obsolete. Commenter says you and your fiancé handled every bit of this as graciously as anyone could expect. Contacting his sister was the best move you could have made. Starlight Sparrow says, damn, he ran out of the wedding. That girl dodged a major bullet. Syke says, holy shit, the edits. I hope he's okay. Please update us if they find him. So, OP does come in with an update and says, I'm updating because I'm still getting a lot of questions. Long story short, he bailed. He decided he did not want to commit to his fiancée, bailed, and days later called to break off the engagement. Bit more details. After his sister and I talked, my ex-fiancée reached out and was kinda mad. The best man had told her he went to see me. At first, she was convinced we had sex, so that took a bit of talking. I felt sorry. She was very distraught. She apologized, I apologized, and I told her I wished her the best. Saturday, I received a call from the sister. Apparently, X reappeared. He went all the way to France. His sister called me to apologize because my ex had stolen one of my lipsticks. I honestly had not noticed, but my ex admitted it to her. She PayPal'd me the money to buy myself a new one. I said I was not mad and asked her how she was and how his ex-fiancée was. On their end, everything is a mess. Everyone is mad at him. I don't know many more details and was kind of not willing to ask, but yeah, that's it. Commenter says he stole a lipstick. A lipstick? What? Who does that? It's so bizarre it's funny. Stealing a lipstick of all things, and then his sister PayPaling you for it. Thanks for the laugh. Opie says, our guess is that he just grabs the first thing he knew was mine. That was small enough to fit in his pocket. That is absolutely wild. The guy just ran off to France with his stolen lipstick. Do you know what scene popped into my head? Oh god, my mind is cursed. This dude's somewhere in France now with his lipstick, and Buffalo Bill popped into my head straight away. Silence of the Lambs, man. I think we'll leave you with that image for the end of that story. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. This next story comes from the Petty Revenge subreddit from Metazoa1, who says, I left my father's ashes at the crematorium. My dad was not a good guy. He never beat me, my mom, or my siblings. He was just absent. When my mother moved myself and my siblings across the country for a job, Dad elected to stay behind with a vague promise of, I'm going to finish my A+ certification and join you later. He never did. Birthdays went without phone calls or visits. Promised visits never materialized. And eventually my mum divorced him, and that was that. He complained about child support and used that as a reason not to help her with medical bills, school stuff, etc. He was the textbook definition of a deadbeat. In 2013, 20 years after we had moved and long after all the kids were adults, Dad had a heart attack. Now, he had never really grown up and had spent the past 20 years renting a room in his friend's house. He dealt blackjack at a casino but was always the first one to take early leave. Nothing in savings. My mother and siblings are amazing people but refused to lift a finger to help him. I should have done the same. But I've always thought that no one deserves to die alone and afraid. I found a good job opportunity in his city and moved back to take care of him. The next 6 years were hell. He refused to take his medication or follow his diet. Getting him to take a walk, do chores, or anything other than watch Fox News was impossible. At the same time, my career took off, and I was responsible for 2 manufacturing plants, putting me in the unenviable position of being a parent to a 70-year-old man-child. I would constantly get phone calls during work trips or board meetings demanding I come home and do whatever little thing he didn't want to do. Load the dishwasher, unclog the toilet, we had 3, get the mail. When I came home from work, the verbal abuse started. I was neglecting him, I was a terrible son, I couldn't do anything right. He finally passed in 2019. He left me with nothing but heavy trauma and debt. I had him cremated. When the crematorium called to let me know to pick him up, I told them I wouldn't. For all I know, he's still there. It may not be the kind of revenge I wanted, but it's enough for me. It still makes me smile when I think about it. And there was many people sharing their own stories to do with deadbeat parents towards the end and how they were treated, etc. And I just find it heartbreaking for OP that they had the empathy to do this and then was treated like shit afterwards. But, you know, I'm glad that they got a little bit of satisfaction at the very end there, because clearly that father didn't deserve the love and empathy from such a wonderful person like OP. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.